Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Amy Burkett. Over the years, being mayor of Charlotte has been the launch pad to higher office in Raleigh and Washington, D.C., or more recently, the last stop on the way to prison. But for Mayor Dan Clodfelter, it was more of a political rescue mission, restoring respect to an office stained by corruption. Carolina Impact's Jeff Sonnier recently sat down with Charlotte's outgoing mayor for him to share his thoughts on the job, the issues, and the city's future.
Well, thank you, Amy, and especially thank you, Mayor Dan Clodfelter, for joining us here today.
Glad to be with you.
You're leaving office after about 2 years, not just leading the city, but also in a large measure healing the city.
Today, I have acknowledged being guilty of accepting monies for constituent services.
I mean, when you came on board, we had an ex-mayor who had just resigned after charges of corruption.
I first want to simply apologize to this community.
We had a city hall that in many ways was oblivious to what was going on in the mayor's office until the day the FBI arrived.
His arrest came as a complete surprise to the city council and the city manager.
It wasn't something I planned. It really wasn't something I was looking for. But I sort of thought about it and said, you know, maybe there's a voice upstairs that's trying to tell you something, so you need to listen. I do feel a good sense about the job I was asked to do. I think I discharged it well and faithfully and truly, and I feel good about that. The rediscovery of Charlotte for me has been just a delight. What this city has become in the 15 years where I was off in state government is it's just wonderful. We've reached a takeoff point, and that's really exciting to watch. It puts us in the big leagues. We were still, as you say, in adolescence then. I think we're now a player on the world stage.
As a city council member and as a planning commissioner,
yeah.
You had a chance in many ways to lay the groundwork for what has happened and what is happening today. Do you think we did a good job back then?
I think we did as good a job as we could be expected to do, given the uncertainties of what we didn't know. You think about that, and then you get on the goal line and ride it, or you ride the Lynx blue line, and you think, we did it. We actually made it happen. So that kind of success, that feeling of success, on a very, very long-term kind of investment, gives me hope that we can do it.
You talked about transit and you talked about development, and the trolley is one of those issues.
Streetcar.
Or the streetcar, excuse
Right.
me, is one of those issues that kind of straddles both.
Yeah, it does. We've always done that, Jeff. We've always used transportation dollars to lead growth. The construction of I-45 was, the location and the routing of I-45 was very largely based upon growth policies. The difference between the streetcar and the bus system is it's going to be there. There's going to be public transportation at this location for a long, long time, 50 years or more. You can reliably invest here. That's what a streetcar gives you that a bus doesn't.
The Carrick trial and the overall issue of police and minorities.
This is the dash cam video. You can see as the victim, Jonathan Farrell, comes into the dash cam. I'm going to stop.
I thought I was going to die. Why? Because nothing I would do would stop him.
No one really got a feeling of resolution out of that non-verdict. I don't think anyone felt that resolved matters. And you know, in an odd way, Jeff, that may be for the long term, that may be a helpful thing. I don't want to say it's a good thing, but it may be a helpful thing because it keeps the issue alive. It means we know we've still got to talk about it. We know we've still got to work on it. I think it would be a mistake for us to simply say, oh, we're fine. See, we didn't have any riots, so we must be okay. Well, we're not okay. We did a good job of keeping the temperature down, but the tensions are still there.
The airport is something that doesn't seem to have a clear endpoint in sight in terms of who's going to control it in the future. I know that the city wants to maintain control.
Well, I think it's going to stay under city management and an integral part of city operations. I think that's the future.
One of the reasons that the legislature, and particularly Republicans in the legislature, got involved was apparently because there was a concern on the part of business in Charlotte, some business leaders in Charlotte, that maybe the airport would become more political
I don't think it's ever been subject to the whims of the politicians. The one thing I will say, from city council to city council to city council consistently over my time in Charlotte, that airport has been managed with the highest degree of stewardship as an important public asset. It's never been a political plaything. I've not seen that. I will say one disappointment I've had about my time in mayor. I hope we would get closure on this issue.
That sense of unfinished business often leads to,
as mayor of the city,
the next step in a political career.
As mayor of the city of Charlotte, North Carolina,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
What's your next step?
I have no idea. I really don't. I didn't know this was in my future, so I'm not sure I know what's next in my future. I didn't even know that I would be doing this job, and so we'll sort of see what tickles my fancy next.
But there is a political future. I guess that's my point.
I don't know. I don't know, Jeff. I'm not, as I say, I don't have a master plan or a checklist. I look for an opportunity to be of service, and when I see one where I think I can put my talents and skills to work and be effective and be productive, I will probably take advantage of it.
Thank you, Mayor Dan Clodfelter, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
When you decide what's in your political future, we hope you'll come back and visit us again here at WTVI. Amy?
Thanks so much, Jeff. Before Dan Clodfelter's appointment, he spent 15 years in Raleigh as a state senator. He was also elected to 3 terms in the Charlotte City Council in the late 80s and early 90s, and served as chairman of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission. Clodfelter was defeated in the fall Democratic mayoral primary by now mayor-elect Jennifer Roberts. Well, I don't